My name is Miss Jessica with NowChild.org. Today, we're going to be doing a little container gardening. If you've never really gardened before, or if you're a little intimidated by the process, container gardening can be a great, inexpensive way to get your hands dirty. Plus, it's a great experience for the entire family. I've done container gardening with children as young as 1. At that age, they don't really know what's going on an intellectual level, but it's all about the sensorial experience. And that goes for adults too. Contact with nature is very therapeutic for both children and adults. So, let's get started with the trip to our local nursery. We're here at Sakamoto Plants in Los Gatos, California. And we're going to take a look at some of the flowers that they have. When you pick out a plant for container gardening, it doesn't have to be rocket science. Just make sure that the plant looks healthy to you. Make sure the leaves are green, nothing's brown or wilted or yellow. Also make sure there's no holes. This signifies a possible pest. We don't want to bring any bad bugs back into our garden. And also read the garden marker. It can tell you a lot about where to plant your new plants, whether it likes sun or shade and things like that. Also, it's a great opportunity to read aloud to your children and get them involved in the process of picking out a plant. Next, you'll need some potting soil. Miracle-Gro is always a sure bet, and it's available at most major garden centers. But you could go to your local nursery as well, and they usually have some more organic choices. Also, you could choose to compost on your own at home, and I'll be doing an upcoming video on how to do composting at home. The last thing you need for container gardening is, well, a container. Just make sure you get something that's deep enough and wide enough for the plant you chose. Now, finally, is the fun part. Gather all your supplies, your container, the plants that you bought, your soil, and you can use a hand shovel or you can use your hands and a watering can or hose. And first, you're just going to fill up your container with your soil. You could just do it scoop by scoop with your children. You can use your hands, or you could just lift the whole bag up and just pour it in. So you don't need to fill it all the way up at this point. You can sort of smooth your hand over the soil to flatten it out a bit to see how deep it is. And next, you're gonna take your plant out of the container, out of its temporary container. You can set the garden marker aside for now. And this part is kind of tricky. You can sort of push your hand to loosen up the flowers. You don't want to pull on the roots too hard or it will damage the plants. And at this point is a great time to point out to your children the roots in the soil and explain to them that this is how the flower gets its water and nutrients. It slurps up the water and vitamins in the soil through its roots, just like a straw. Now at this point, you're going to want to tease the roots out a little too. You could just pull them apart gently. And this will help the plant to establish itself better in the soil. So just like that. Now simply we're going to place our plants inside the container that's already has some dirt in it. And I'm going to add some more soil. I just like to use my hands at this point to add it to the sides. And you just want to make sure that you add enough soil so it gets flat with the flower. Okay, so once you get all the soil packed in there around your plant, you're going to want to make sure to give it a nice watering. You can use a watering can or you can use a hose. And you're going to want to make sure that you get the water in nicely in the soil. This is a good time to teach children not to water on top of the plants and the leaves, but in the actual soil. So after that first initial watering, you're going to want to keep a close eye on your plants to see how they're doing, and if they start to look withered, it usually means they're either getting not enough water or too much water. If your soil starts to look light in color, then that means you probably need to water them a little bit more. Maybe move them to a cooler or shadier spot. If your soil is nice and moist and brown, dark brown, then it probably means that they're getting enough water, maybe too much if they're wilting, and you may want to move it to a sunnier spot. So that's it. That's a little bit about container gardening. Try it at home with your children and the whole family, and let me know how it goes.